Hey, everybody. It's Sunday morning. It's time for the Blitz. It's week 10. If you're not keeping up with us, you're not winning out there. So hopefully you join us today. We get you to where you need to go. We get some wins going, and we're going to get you going there in about 30 seconds. And welcome back in, everybody. It is good to see everybody this fine Sunday morning. We're here again. It's week 10. We are ready to get things going. As always, I never do this by myself. I've got the best crew in the business to do the Blitz. On my left, I've got my man Joe. Wait a minute, that's weird. It's the opposite, but I got my man Joe on my left. How we doing today, Joe?
I didn't realize the Hollywood Squares positioning was correlated to timeliness. So I guess as proud as I am right now, I don't think anything could make me more guilty long term than the fact that I'm not in the bottom today.
Well, see, you got promoted, and Jeff with his bad calls last week is being punished. So by being below, no, typically it just comes up that way. Usually Jeff's here first. Me and him are usually chatting it up to get things going, and not this time, unfortunately. We got me and him both showed up a little bit late today. So speaking of, how's my man Jeff? Jeff, how we doing today?
I'm doing great, brother. As always, best morning of the week to get together with you boys, answer some questions. And we have a first in the NFL. A game will be started by a man living in his parents' house. Tommy DeVito, let's do this, baby.
I think that's a really awesome fun fact right there that Tommy DeVito lives with his parents still. And I think it's cool, man. Like, good for you. And in today's economy, you can't blame a guy to it's like twice what you make in the NFL to even rent an apartment these days. So he's doing the right thing, being the smart guy. And we appreciate everybody who's coming and joining us today through this very riveting matchup on Sunday morning football between the Patriots and the Colts. I think I just got a sleeper alert that Jonathan Taylor got a 4-yard game. And I think that's just because they're desperate to send a sleeper alert and because they haven't been able to do it for anything else this morning. With that, we'll go ahead and kick this off. Joe, what do you got for an injury report for us today? Unmuted, maybe.
There it is. Good start, right? Right off the bat, I think the most important one on everybody's mind is Jamar Chase, and we did just get word that he is active. He did what he needed to do in warm-ups. Per the report, he will play today. Just as a reminder, T. Higgins is out, so Tyler Boyd will be opposite Chase today for the Bengals in their matchup. We know that Daniel Jones is once again out, and Danny DeVito will be starting for the New York Giants. We know that Will Levis is starting for Tennessee going forward. And that's about it from a quarterback perspective. Running backs, I got to say, what is this, week 11, 10, whatever, what are we, week 10?
Week 10.
Week 10. And the injuries front's a little quieter than, it started to really mount up weeks 4, 5, and 6. But, look at Arizona today, getting both Kyler Murray and James Conner back. So basically their whole offense, which has been gone, will be back. Dameon Pierce is out again for Houston. It's another Singletary start, which means pretty much nothing. And Cam Akers is out for Minnesota, so Alexander Mattison will be prevalent once again. And that's really it. It is a pretty quiet injury week, which is nice to see in week 10.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to see those injury reports staying as low as possible and being able to get our guys in there. I know, like, for me, I've got a lot of guys that are coming off of IR in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be huge right there. So it'll be nice to see a few of these other guys coming off the report. I know they said Justin Jefferson was a no-go for sure this week, and that sucks. But it looks like next week we might have our man back. So that'll be some good thing there as far as the injury front goes. And then so we're going to go ahead and get into some questions here. We're going to go ahead and kick this thing off with our man Scott Rockwell 88. He says sit one. Stevenson, Edwards, Connor, and White. Now, Luckily, Stevenson is probably out of the equation here because he's in the game. So let's just say between these three, Edwards, Connor, and White, would you have sat Stevenson in this mix, Jeff?
Probably. I mean, he just hasn't. We talked about him last week for a little while. He hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype or the expectations that was that he was coming off of a good season last year. But so amongst this group, although I can't necessarily say amongst these four that I would have sat him. I mean, Gus Edwards is a tough one to play because you got Justice Hill and then the new guy there, Keaton something.
Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah.
So I would have to say I'd probably sit Edwards just because with three running backs and Lamar Jackson, it's going to be tough to get the amount of touches that you would look for based on the other three in the lineup there. I think they would have more opportunity than Edwards. So I don't know what you guys think.
What do you got here, Joe? What do you think?
It's a tough one because Edwards has got 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games, I believe.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah. So which is hard, but it's Cleveland again, one of the best defenses in the league. Really tough matchup. Hindsight's 2020 is Stevenson's really not doing much because the Patriot offense in general is not doing much as he's carrying the ball right now. He had a good week last week. Indianapolis, I would have a hard time starting Stevenson without the benefit of this hindsight here. I guess I would sit Edwards. I'm excited about James Conner being back, and because of the injuries and their other running backs, even though it's his first game back, it doesn't sound like he's going to be eased in. He's going to get a full workload. And the way White has come on in a PPR perspective, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe you say if it's a PPR, you got to play White and sit Edwards. If it's standard, you probably play Edwards and sit White. That's my final answer.
I don't mind that. I think in this one too, I think I'm sitting Edwards. Stevenson, I would have probably played against the Colts. Although right now it's not looking like anything against the Colts or anything against the Patriots is working very well. Like I said last night, if I'm going to do a daily lineup on this, and I actually didn't, I wish I would have. It would have been a defense in the captain seat. There'd have been another defense in there, and then 2 kickers, and then I would have probably had somebody like Demario Douglas or somebody that would have cost a lot because I already had the other one going up. On this one for me, like I said, I think out. I think you're right. Connor coming back on that team, I think he's going to be focal point of that offense. And White, I don't really see a way you can sit White the way he's been playing football the past few weeks here. I got a question from our guy, Joe Real MVP. He says, Devontae Adams or Alexander Madison full PPR in the flex spot. Joe, we're going to go ahead and let you lead this off. And wow, how crazy it is that this is even a question, but it's a good one.
It is a good one. Man. I think, this is really hard. I think you got to sit Madison, though, and play Devontae Adams. I know it's been slow going for him. They're playing the Jets. I saw a picture of Adams and Aaron Rodgers hanging out last night. I feel like Adams is going to want to have a good one this week. The Raiders have a little bit of an emotional high, I guess, based on getting rid of McDaniels, getting the win after that. I mean, they beat the Giants, which doesn't really count at this point. And I do like Madison, too, this week to an extent, but I'm going to give Devontae Adams the benefit of the doubt here.
I don't mind that a bit. I do like Adams. I think he's going to be able to pick it back up today. What do you think here, Jeff?
So I'll actually disagree with Joe on that one. I always say it, the tie goes to the running back. I just think that with Josh Dobbs being there behind center in Minnesota, them being at home versus New Orleans. Now, Vegas is also home, but they're against the Jets, who have solid cornerbacks. And just with the fact that Cam Akers is out, Madison is back to being the guy. He hasn't burned it up at all. I mean, certainly, expectation-wise, he's kind of been a little bit lackluster, but I think he's going to have more opportunity for touches than Devontae Adams. Even with the full PPR, I still think Madison will be. And Joe pronouncing Mattinson over the last few weeks keeps screwing me up there. So, but I roll with Madison over Devontae Adams.
I think I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I'm going to agree with Joe here. I'm going to lean on Devontae Adams to have himself a comeback week. The guy is just too good to ignore on any kind of an offense. He's a target hog. I think you're going to start seeing a little bit more flow going his way, a little bit less going to Jacoby Myers. I really think that team can, they can actually string together some wins if they can get that team clicking all on all cylinders. They just need a good play out of that quarterback to make it happen. So I think Devontae Adams is going to be a good grab here. Trans-Siberian leading us off. He said, first off, the 6 p.m. start time for the Blitz interferes with the wife's dinner bell. That is not good. We apologize, man, but we got to get the people from the West Coast as well. We got to try to cover, about 7 continents here. So, but we're doing our best for you, Trans-Siberian. And if we got to change our time for anybody, it would be you, my man. He says, coming up, Flex Standard, Ford Boyd Myers. Second question is just for Mike. Nebraska, you out of your mind? Been there two times on a job and as the longest year of my life. No, dude, I love it in Nebraska. I'm telling you, there's a lot of things up there that I think are hidden gems. It's a lot slower paced and things like that. Just a little bit of a better place to kind of get your kids raised up and stuff and things. And I tell you, this East Coast living where you have, I know people that probably have spent half of their lives in traffic, and that to me is just inexcusable. I can't sit in a car that long. It's insane to me. So I'll answer that second question first, and I'll go ahead and let Jeff lead off on this first one here. Ford, Boyd, or Myers?
Well, the funny thing, Nebraska just it almost reminds me of like a Dumb and Dumber quote, someplace warm, someplace where the Dr. Pepper flows like wine. I'm talking about Nebraska. But in any case, so if we're talking, all right, Ford, Boyd, Myers, I'm leaning on Ford. I get it. You got Kareem Hunt over there too, but those two guys have been putting up halfway decent numbers. Tyler Boyd, it seems like T. Higgins is out, but anytime Tyler Boyd has a little bit of kind of hype behind him, he goes for about 2 points seemingly. I've never seen the guy. There might have been one game in the past where he's had like 20-something, which gave people the idea that, okay, he's going to put up some numbers, but the guy just doesn't do it. Myers has been good. He's just kind of hit or miss. And so if you're going between a running back and a wide receiver, I'm going running back. So give me Ford.
I don't mind that answer a bit. Joe, what do you think right here?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I would eliminate Myers right off the bat here. And Jeff is right about Boyd. I feel like Boyd's a better DFS play than league play for the exact reasons that Jeff just kind of mentioned, because he's cheap from a DFS perspective. Ford is a conundrum for me this week because I've loved this guy and I've got a large ownership of him in my leagues. But it's a really tough matchup, and he's got Hunt. I mean, Baltimore beat them, I believe it was like 28-3 or something like that, their first meeting. I expect it to be closer. I am going to lean Ford over Boyd. It's kind of close for me, but I'll go Ford. I will go Ford. He's obviously probably got the better shot of getting in the end zone than Boyd too. And this is a standard league, so that makes a difference.
And I'll go ahead and complete the sweep on that with Ford as well. I do like Boyd, but I like Boyd, honestly. To me, he excels as a wide receiver 3. He's great to flex with that purpose of knowing he's only going to get you 3 catches for about 30 yards and a touchdown possibility, probably in the higher 75% range of being able to get you to that touchdown. Jacoby Myers, to me, seems like more of a volume play just because he's been seeing 7 to 10 targets a game. And when he usually sees targets like that, he usually is able to turn that into about 60 yards. And again, another guy that has a high propensity to find the touchdown. That said, just with the 2 offensive opportunities and the fact that I think that Devontae Adams is going to have himself a pretty good game today, I'm going to lead Ford just because he's the running back in the situation over there. Yes, Kareem Hunt's there, but I don't think Kareem Hunt's that impactful, not as much as Ford. And I think if they're going to win this game today, which I do believe they will, I think they're going to win it on the ground. I think they're going to pound it down Baltimore's throats as often as they possibly can. I think they're going to try to make a really slow game out of it. I think Ford's for sure the play.
Right? I'm with you, Mikey. I don't know why, but I'm with you for some reason. I actually think Cleveland's going to pull this one out today too.
Yeah, I think their defense is going to actually show these guys. Because, yes, granted, they got stomped in week 1 over there, but this is a different week. This is a different team that they're facing. That team still hadn't really kind of found their identity, and I think now that they have it, they're going to be a whole lot better. So, and then they've been playing like they're going to be a whole lot better. We got a question from @Nola Stacy D says Bijan Robinson, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery. We can only play 2. Who are we sitting in this mix? Joe.
So I think who are we sitting here? Man, it's tough. I think the conversation that you have to have with this question, and I was curious to see how often these guys come up today, is the David Montgomery Gibbs situation. Montgomery, before his injury, Gibbs hadn't totally broken out yet the way he has now. So you're really, I mean, this is a situation where in a league you wouldn't do it DFS wise. In a league, you're starting both of them today, right? If you have Montgomery and Gibbs on your roster, I think you have to start both of them. And I know that's not this question, but I do think it feeds into the value of Montgomery with Gibbs there. And now Gibbs has really carried the load for them while he was out. So it's something you have to consider. I guess that being said, because they're playing the Chargers on the road, and the Chargers obviously can score some points, I think there's going to be some game scripts that favor Montgomery for Detroit. I think there's going to be ones that favor Gibbs. I think today favors Gibbs. So I would sit Montgomery here and go with Robinson.
I actually don't mind that logic at all. I actually think I might be on the same page there. What do you got to say here, Jeff?
So I'll be sitting Aaron Jones. We talked about Bijan Robinson last night a lot, especially from a DFS standpoint. I love that play. And just so everybody is aware, he's 6,600 on FanDuel if you want to take a peek and slide him into your DFS lineups. David Montgomery was burning it up before he got injured. Yeah, you got Gibbs there who's come on, but I still think David Montgomery is going to put up some points against the Chargers. The Chargers defense is nothing like, on paper, the Chargers defense looks halfway decent, but they just haven't done anything to stop anybody. And then Aaron Jones has had a couple of decent weeks sandwiched between some very bad weeks. I just don't like the Green Bay offense, so I'm sitting Aaron Jones.
Fair.
Wow, okay. And so I think with both of those arguments in my ears, I think I'm leaning still towards the David Montgomery sit. I think Bijan Robinson is a guy that kind of scares me a little bit still today. And the things that scare me about Bijan Robinson are the fact that we see Algier getting more of those looks in the red zone. I mean, when he's in the top 10, top 15, or when they're in that range right there, he's the guy that's running out of the sideline and pulling Robinson out. And so those are things that I don't like to see. So, I mean, if Robinson scores outside of 20 yards, then okay, that's awesome. We're going to be great. But he's going to have to do that, I think, because I feel like he's not even getting the opportunities inside of the red zone. That said, I still feel like Jahmyr Gibbs did show enough of his skill set to warrant at least a 50% usage in this matchup. I think for me, I'm going to go ahead and lean off of David Montgomery, although I think I'm with you, Joe. I think if I have both of these guys on my lineup in my redraft leagues, I'm playing both of them. And I think I'm going to be pretty confident rolling both of those guys out.
Reminds you of the Thomas Jones, Jamal Charles days.
Yep, exactly. Or, my favorite running back tandem in history will always be Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, because I had both of them. And that Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator of that team. And my God, man, I mean, we're not even talking about weeks that it was okay to play both of them. They were coming out as the 1 and 2 in, I think, like 3 different weeks that they were the number 1 and number 2 running back for the week. And it was just, man, I was killing it. My points for were awesome. We got Adifk068 says, should I sit Derrick Henry for Laporta half PPR? Schultz is at the tight end position. Joe, what do you think here? Who are you sitting?
So basically he's saying he's going to flex to play 2 tight ends for Henry. I don't know. Tampa Bay, I mean, Houston scored 39 on Tampa last week, right? So I feel like, that alone, Tennessee's not going to put up 39, but I don't think you can sit Derrick Henry yet for Laporta or Schultz. I mean, Laporta, maybe he goes 6 for 75 and a touchdown, which is a great week, but how much worse is Henry going to do than that? And he could certainly do better.
I don't mind that. Oh, what do you think here, Jeff?
This just goes to show you how good of a rookie tight end this kid is. If this question came in like week 1 or week 2, it would be like, why the hell is this guy even asking this question? But Laporta has been fantastic. I tell you, he's a star right off the bat. Detroit's offense is humming. But I'll agree with Joe. You can't sit Henry. Plus, Dalton Schultz, they're going up against Cincinnati, whose defense against tight ends is worse than the league. So, Dalton should be a good play. And again, you just can't. I can't sit Derrick Henry for a rookie tight end from Detroit. I can't do it.
No, same here. I'm with you. I would like to. I'd like to say that my confidence is that high in Sam Laporta and everything he can bring to the table. Just not as much as I can guarantee you that Derrick Henry is going to get 15 to 20 touches in this game. I mean, and you can just set your clock to it. Barring injury, that guy's going to get 15 to 20 touches. And, like one thing that we've been seeing him is utilized as a receiving back a little bit more often, even with Tajay Spears lighting it up the way he's been lighting it up. Derrick Henry is still getting passes out there. So, I mean, half PPR, I'm going to go ahead and I'm definitely going to be playing Derrick Henry in this situation. And I think I agree. I think I'm going to play Dalton Schultz over Sam Laporta in that tight end position as well, because I think Dalton Schultz, especially with no Nico Collins today, is going to light it up.
But I find that funny real quick, though, because so, yeah, to your point, the decision becomes Schultz or Laporta, which is another hard decision. But if you would consider, I guess the funny part is if you would consider Laporta over Henry, but then you feel confident enough to say Schultz over Laporta where you don't even ask the question. And I know Schultz is hot and he's got a very good match. He's got a good matchup from a tight end perspective. But it's kind of funny. Like, I don't know. To be honest, I probably sit Schultz there and play Laporta.
So would you play Schultz over Henry?
No, I would play Henry and Laporta and sit Schultz.
Oh,
right?
gotcha.
Laporta's at the Chargers. They're going to have to throw. I think there's going to be some points in that game. I mean, Schultz, the Texans will also. I don't know. I just feel like Laporta's been a little more consistent than Schultz this year.
And I won't disagree with you on that, Joe. The thing is, though, with the injury to Nico Collins and the matchup, so you got Dalton Schultz there in Houston, and then Detroit, you got Laporta, but you also got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who we all agree is going to have a big week. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, you got David Montgomery. How many of them can have a huge week? So
Schultz
I just think that's just my take on that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Yeah, Jamison Williams, there's a lot of mouths to feed on that offense over there, and they're all really, really good mouths to feed. At SilverBell1983 says, Najee or Madison this week? Etienne is my other running back. Jeff, lead us off here.
So I like, man, Najee is he's been my Achilles heel, man. I like the guy. I drafted him in my regular league, but he every time he touches, it seems like he gets like 1.8 yards. It's just really frustrating. Yeah, he'll get 25 touches a game, which turns into 57 rushing yards. So I think that Jaylen Warren is coming up too. He's got more average yards per touch than Najee Harris. Seems like they're working him into the scheme a little bit more. I had him as our bargain in DFS last night. I think Jaylen Warren's going to have a halfway decent game. And then on the flip side of that, you got Madison, who's got, Cam Akers is out, so he's definitely the guy. So I just think because of, just the odds of Madison getting more touches and more opportunity, I think he's your guy.
I don't mind that answer a bit. What do you think here, Joe?
Yeah, I think Jeff said it right. I mean, the emergence of Warren and the fact that Harris is like a 3-yard a carry guy now, and Mattison's doing it by himself for Minnesota. I agree. I think you said it. Well said, Mr. Misha.
No, I don't. I just can't sit. I can't see myself. Madison has had that number one opportunity all season long, and just last week he looked like he was able to do something with it. I don't see that being consistent. I think Dobbs being the quarterback there is going to change things up a little bit to where they're going to have to lean more on the run. Man, I love Najee Harris. I think he's going to do pretty well this week, but I actually do think I'm with you guys. I think I'm on Madison because we don't have Justin Jefferson, because we don't have KJ Osborne. It's getting pretty bleak over there. I think it's kind of funny. I saw somebody post on Twitter. You think you could just come in here and win a game without our playbook? Now you got to try to do that again without any players. So we'll see how Dubs does. I know I grabbed him in a couple of weeks, so I'm pretty excited to see what this kid can do because, man, that was an amazing performance last week. Let's see something like that again. We got N_Ribbe says Lamar Jackson or Brock Purdy today. Joe, who do you got?
Yeah, to me, this is a no-brainer. And I think San Francisco's fine. I know they've lost a few games. They get Debo back today. I think they're a top 5 team in the NFL. That being said, this to me, Lamar Jackson could break a 65-yard run in the first quarter and, be on his way to a 35-point game with 150 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. I just think, and I know it's a great defense in Cleveland. I get it. I just think you got to go Lamar.
What do you got here, Jeff? Because I actually disagree with that statement. What do you think?
I would say, yeah, the only thing that would give me pause is Lamar Jackson's rushing ability. But, I mean, Joe brought it up. Cleveland is a tough matchup. You can't discount that. You got Brock Purdy in Jacksonville. They're both going to be putting up some points. You got Deebo Samuel back. I know that probably the smart play would be Lamar Jackson, but I'm going Brock Purdy just because of the matchup and the opportunity.
Lamar put up 29 fantasy points at Cleveland in week 4.
And since then, so the past 2 games, Lamar Jackson's given you 12 points and he's given you 10 points because they're not having to Lamar's not having to play hero ball like he typically does. He's not having to run around and do the things that he had to do, trying to pitch impossible passes to Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews being so good that he's able to pull those things in and make touchdowns. They're actually able to get the job done with a solid defense and a good running game with Gus Edwards, now Keaton Mitchell, Justice Hill, all 3 of those guys being very productive. So Lamar Jackson, the only thing that scares me about him is the fact that they're not using him to the best of his abilities. And I don't think that they're going to really need to dip too deep into this game. I think that it's just going to be kind of like a dogfight. I think this game could very easily end 10-7, 10-3, 7-3, something in that kind of an instance. So for me, give me Brock Purdy because I just see a little bit more offensive output out of that team. So
yeah, and that's a great point, Mike. As far as the running backs, you got Gus Edwards, you got Justice Hill, you got Keaton Mitchell, you got Dave Maggott, you got Otis Anderson, you got Curtis.
Francisco's got a running back that scored about to break the record for consecutive games with a touchdown. So if we're worried about other guys scoring, you can't worry about that more than with McCaffrey.
True,
but for 57 rushing yards last week, which is 37 more than he's had in any other game this year. So
I'm not banking on
4 points. This is going to be a good one to see. Trans-Siberian, put this one on the board, buddy.
I'm not banking on Purdy from his rushing ability. And yes, you got McCaffrey back there who can rush it, but McCaffrey is also a big weapon out of the backfield to catch a couple passes first. So I can see that happening where he might have a rushing touchdown. He'll probably have a receiving touchdown too, which goes, more towards Purdy.
It's going to be a good one to see. Because Jacksonville, the matchup I like for Purdy, I think they're going to, Jacksonville should score a little bit. He went for 365 yards against the Bengals last week, but the Bengals also jumped on them right off the bat. But he also did that without Deebo too. So there's a lot of pros and cons on this one. I could talk myself in and out of this one. That's a good one.
Excellent. Now it's a tough one, man. Now it's definitely, you love it when you get these guys cooking on things like that. Our buddy Jesse Nunez says start Kittle or Hawkinson. I almost said Greg Kittle, George Kittle. Gosh darn it. Who are you starting, Jeff?
I mean, Greg Kittle is definitely a great option there. So, and his brother George isn't half bad. So I would say because of all the weapons that we just named in San Francisco, they're spreading it around a lot. Hawkinson is really the go-to guy in Minnesota, especially with Dobbs. With somebody, a newer quarterback to the team, to the system, they're always going to kind of lean on the tight ends or the running backs to get them through until things get kind of warmed up with the playbook. So I'm going with Hawkinson. Not that I think Kittle's a bad option, but I just think Hawkinson will have more opportunity.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who you're flexing in this instance because I do feel like I want to get Kittle in a matchup if I can, just because I really like this plus matchup for him today as well. But I'm leaning Hawkinson here as well. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, me too. If Deebo was out again, I think I would be really up in the air. It would be like 50-50 if Deebo was out again because Kittle's been very good without Deebo. When Deebo plays and they're at full strength, Kittle can go either way. I mean, he's had a 1-point game, a 1.9, a 6, and a 4 on DraftKings. So they can win without Kittle. Minnesota can't win today without Hawkinson having a game. And one more thing to think about with Dobbs is in Arizona, Zach Ertz was getting a ton of targets every week before he got hurt. And then Dobbs made a man out of McBride. And McBride went for a huge game with his game playing with Dobbs. And then McBride did nothing last week with Dobbs gone. So he certainly seems to like his tight ends.
No, absolutely. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that today. Like I said, with him having a week under his belt, getting to know these players, at least getting to know their first names, which he was not able to do last week. He didn't even know half the guys that were on his team and still went out there and was able to win. I think Hawkinson is the play right here. And I'd like to give an update on the game today over there in Germany that's happening right now. it's still the same score. There still hasn't been anything that happened. You're at the right place if you're watching and not watching that game. We got at underscore D underscore side says Taysom Hill or Chris Godwin in the half PPR flex spot. Taysom has been so good and Godwin not, but man, the Godwin matchup is enticing. Joe, who do you got right here, Taysom or Chris Godwin?
Yeah, I mean, you could do a half hour on Taysom Hill. It's insane. Like, it's so hard to predict with him when he's going to be a focal point and get all those red zone touches versus when he's not. It's a great matchup. Minnesota's not a very good defense. Godwin started slow. Then he had a few games where he had a bunch of targets, no big plays, but he was kind of like the security blanket. But now the last couple of weeks, the tight end there has become more of the security blanket, as well as the running back White. And Evans nor Godwin have been very good lately for Tampa, which is kind of bizarro. And it is a good matchup there, obviously. We just said it. Houston gave up a ton of points, or Tennessee's not that great of defense. Tampa scored a ton of points last week. This is really hard, but I'm going to go Taysom Hill because he could end up with a rushing touchdown. He could end up with a passing touchdown. He could end up with a receiving touchdown, as well as some other yardage. So I'm going to go Hill here.
Yeah, the thing about Taysom Hill is the fact that he just gets utilized in so many different ways. I mean, heck, he can be a receiver in one play. He's a quarterback the next play. He's a running back the next play. So it's tough for me. What do you think here, Jeff?
Yeah, and we discussed him a little bit last night, and that's what's so frustrating about any fantasy owners of Alvin Kamara or Derek Carr. That's just got to drive you insane when you see them maybe at the 8-yard line and then bring in Taysom Hill to line up behind center. You got to be pulling your hair out. So, but because of that factor, because he can score any different way in all facets, you have to go Hill just because of opportunity. Godwin, he's talented. He didn't do great last week. He did okay the week before against Buffalo, 5 for 54 and a touchdown, but that's basically been his best week of the year so far this year. Taysom Hill, the upside is huge. Go with him.
Yeah, like I said, I love Chris Godwin today. I think Chris Godwin does have himself a touchdown, but I think it's going to be a game where it's like going to be 4 for about 52 and a touchdown. And Taysom Hill, man, that guy, it's just like everybody was talking about last night. When we were talking about DFS, about how bad this has been for Alvin Kamara and how bad this has been for like for Olave, for Michael Thomas, for everybody, and even Derek Carr, because this guy goes in there and you don't even get the fantasy points out of Derek Carr because he's sitting on the sideline watching another guy come in and poach that touchdown almost every single time, whether it's passing, whether it's rushing, and then again, whether it's receiving. It's quite abysmal, unless usually, at least when it's receiving, it's usually Carr throwing him the football. So, but yep, I got to link Taysom Hill. I can't sit him right now. What you got there, Jeff?
And I was just going to say, so in my opinion, Godwin's a great DFS pickup today. He's only 6,500 on FanDuel. I think if you're trying to squeeze in a guy like Amon-Ra or somebody with a higher salary, Godwin's a guy who you can fit in nicely with a lower salary. That way you can bring in a Dallas defense or whoever at quarterback you're trying to squeeze in there.
Yeah, and my only other comment I'm not surprised that Hill. I'm not surprised that they take the ball out of Carr's hands, and I don't have a problem with Carr. He's fine. I'm not surprised they take the ball out of Carr's hands in the red zone for Hill. What I am a little surprised about is that they sacrifice Kamara at the goal line so much for Hill, because Kamara's proven, and even coming back this year, and I didn't expect him to be good. We had that conversation earlier in the year, but he's great at the goal line. That guy knows how to score a touchdown, 2nd and goal from the 2. And they even sacrifice him for Hill a lot lately. And that surprises me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like I said, that's the one thing that Taysom Hill's really good at doing, is getting in there and confusing the setup and the segments and stuff like that. We got at Coach MXCTF. He says, who do you start between James Cook and Jaylen Warren? Joe, who do you got right here?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I mean, Cook's the starter and Warren's not. However, first of all, Leonard Fournette's probably going to play this week, correct?
Correct. Yeah, he's looking like he's active on the offense.
So that's one thing to consider. Then the only thing with Cook too is he's not getting in the end zone too much. And then I will say with Buffalo, sometimes, and when you have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, who can blame them? There are still times where they abandon the run game totally. Now, home against Denver, you would think this could be a big James Cook week, but I'm still concerned about his ability to score touchdowns. Jaylen Warren, man, this is a really, really hard one. I guess because of the matchup, home against Denver, Monday night in Buffalo, cold, who knows, maybe we get some snow or something. I'm going to go James Cook by a very, very slim margin here.
I don't mind that a bit. It's actually it's a little bit closer than I thought after you kind of broke that down. What do you think here, Jeff?
Yeah, but Joe makes some good points there, that's for sure. As far as touches per game, they seem to get, I mean, Jaylen Warren might get a few less. James Cook, you're looking somewhere around that 12 to 20 range. Warren, you're probably looking somewhere around that 10 to 15 range. But I just think Jaylen Warren does more with the ball when he's got either out of the backfield or he gets more yards per rush, certainly than Najee Harris. So I think Warren by a slim margin. I'll go the other way. Joe says James Cook's slim margin. I'm saying Warren very slim margin.
Oh, and I'm going to say I like them both equally, right down the middle, just because that way we keep it completely as hard as possible on you. No, I actually really think that the Fournette signing kind of raised a few red flags to me about James Cook and his future with Buffalo and what they want out of this guy and what he's been able to produce and what they might be looking for in a running back. Not to take anything away from James Cook because he has been semi-productive this year. If it wasn't for Josh Allen always out there poaching all his touchdowns, he would be phenomenal. He would be a guy that we're talking about as a first-round draft pick every single year. But the reason we're not is because he's on a team that has a quarterback that'll run it in before he will in most cases. And where you got Jaylen Warren fighting for that spot and at this point in time, as far as the eye test goes, I feel like Jaylen Warren has been passing that eye test, where Najee Harris has not been looking as good as Warren has been on the field, especially in goal situations. So I think it's Jaylen Warren for me by a hair, and it's razor thin though. But I feel like Fournette being out there today scares me, and I think Jaylen Warren has been playing. And if you're going to get playing time based on your performance and how you've been putting it out there and leaving it on the field, the team to be is on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think Jaylen Warren will get rewarded by Tomlin. I think this is going to be a good day for him. It's not going to be anything spectacular, but I don't think we're looking at spectacular out of any one of these guys. I think we're looking at a 12 to 15 outcome for both of them. I think Jaylen Warren's going to be the guy that's going to be the guy.
Real quick, you know what's funny about Buffalo and Cook, if you think about it? So Cook comes on last year. They let Zach Moss go over the last 18 months, let's say. The Cook comes on because that was a crowded backfield. You had Singletary, you had Moss, then they bring in Cook through the draft. They let Singletary and Moss both walk, which they hand the keys over to Cook. And he's gotten the carries in a lot of the games. But to your point, Mikey, now they add Fournette, and then sometimes the running game just disappears from their play calling in general, other than when Josh Allen makes it happen on his own. So, yeah, it'll be going into next year even more so. It's going to be really interesting. James Cook's going to be a tough one to figure out.
Right.
And didn't mean to interrupt there, Mike, if you had something. But if whoever asked that question is just joining us and they do daily fantasy, whether it be FanDuel or DraftKings, if you didn't see our show last night or you missed us, the part of the show this morning where we brought up Jaylen Warren, I think he's a great play as far as DFS is concerned on FanDuel. He's only 5,600. I think the guy could get you 60 to 70 yards and a touchdown. That's a solid DFS play to fit in guys who are kind of your typical chalk guys, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yep. Definitely want to be watching that show and keeping up with us on Saturday nights, because we're going to also make you rich while we win your win your weeks. We got our guy Con Madre Compare. Yeah, buddy. He says, morning. Who do I sit? Half PPR, Javonte Williams, Aaron Jones, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Conner. Jeff, lead us off here.
That's an interesting one. So, and some good options as far as his team is concerned. I think I'm going to sit Javonte Williams. I mean, for the most part, everybody on this list outside of Conner really kind of has another running back in the backfield, maybe taking some carries from him. But you got Jones is had some solid weeks. I know I kind of bagged on him maybe 20 minutes ago, but I think he'll put up more than what Javonte Williams would. Jahmyr Gibbs has some great opportunity. Again, you got Montgomery there, but it seems more 50-50. And Conner, the only thing that I would hesitate with Conner is that he's just coming back from injury. But with Kyler Murray there now, Conner has been solid in the past, so I'm sitting Javonte Williams.
Yikes. It's a tough one. It's a tough one right there. What do you got here, Joe?
I don't find this one that tough, to be completely honest, especially if you think about the potential for the game script. I don't see, and I know your boy got in the end zone against the Chiefs and had a decent game, but I don't see how Javonte Williams competes with Jones, Gibbs, or Connor this week. I really don't. I would pause on Connor because it's his first game back, but if you read everything coming out of Arizona, those other running backs they have are hurt. So Connor looks like he's going to just be thrown right back in along with Kyler Murray. A lot of positive emotions going on in Arizona, getting healthy. We've talked about Gibbs. That's a game script that could really aid him against the Chargers. Aaron Jones showed up finally last week. I got to roll with him again. I just don't see it for Javonte Williams. The opportunity may not even be there. And even if it is, he's only proven it a couple times this year. I know you're going to play devil's advocate here, Mikey. What do you got?
Absolutely. Nope. I was just waiting for you to get done. No, so I think Javonte Williams should actually be pretty productive this weekend. I think he's got a good matchup at the Bills. I think it could be cold. When it gets cold, I like to get my running backs out there because they're going to be getting that bulk of the load. And on a team that's going to have to try to slow things down, I think Javonte Williams is a smash play right here. Aaron Jones being the guy that's the number one over there. We haven't really seen anything out of A.J. Dillon this year to worry us there. James Conner coming back full strength. The guy I sit here is Jahmyr Gibbs because when you got David Montgomery out on the field, there's a chance Jahmyr Gibbs only goes out there for 3-4 touches, and the rest of it sitting watching David Montgomery punch touchdowns. So for me, I think the guy that I sit here is Jahmyr Gibbs, although it's 2-1. These guys want you to sit Javonte Williams, the Bronco, the guy who's going to score you 18 touchdowns probably just tomorrow night alone.
So, real quick.
No, just kidding. No, it's fairly close for me between Williams and Gibbs. I think it's a smash play Jones, smash play Connor. Javonte is a little bit less smash, but I still think I play him. And Gibbs again, man. I gotta see what he's like on this offense. He proved it. He got his part, but you know who else did that a couple of weeks ago? Bijan Robinson. How did he do last week? So you got these coaches that look at these rookies, and it's kind of a little bit of a different look every single week.
Real quick, in your defense, Mikey, I mean, Javonte Williams, he's got 167 rushing yards on 42 carries the last 2 weeks against KC and Green Bay, which those are good numbers. On the flip side of that, though, he's got 0 rushing touchdowns this year and just 1 receiving. But he's got the yardage. His last 2 weeks have been way better than his first 6. That's for sure.
Yep. Ticking up for sure. Trans-Siberian says, good luck on your move, Mike. Hopefully it's not Scottsbluff or Kearney you're moving to. Shout out to N Bell today. Enjoy your football today. Yeah, definitely one love out there, Trans-Siberian. And it's funny because I'm moving like in between Scottsbluff and Kearney, so that might be actually even worse than what he's thinking right there and the place that I'm going to be going to. But again, man, I mean, I can't stress it enough. I love it there. I can understand why people don't like it, but man, it's kind of one of those hidden gems to me. You can catch so many fish, you can do all kinds of fun hunting, man. It's constant, it's nonstop. I really appreciate that, Trans-Siberian. I'll be back. I probably won't be back next week, but there is a slight chance I'll be back next week. But if not, I'll be right back the week after to give you a hard time. Oh, we got to go away from that one because I am not going to try to butcher that name one more time. We got Aunt K. Jahorn Sony says Gibbs Kenneth Walker for running back 2, Dell or Deontay for running wide receiver 2, Murray or Gino for bye week start. Jeff, we'll go ahead and let you break this down one at a time here.
So, first of all, we talked about him last night too, especially. I love Kenneth Walker this week. I think he's going to have a really big week. And then, when you got Montgomery back too, that just taking stuff away from Gibbs. So ability and everything else. And I believe they're at home against Atlanta. I mean, I go Murray by a slim margin just because Gino has let me down too many times.
I don't mind that a bit right there for sure. What do you think here, Joe?
Yeah, these are good ones. Another great group of questions this week. Going Walker because of the matchup. Gibbs is great, but yeah, Walker, I think definitely for the running back one. I agree with Jeff on Kyler Murray also. Bottom line is Gino probably doesn't need to have a great game for Seattle to win home against Washington. If you love Kenneth Walker, figure he's going to get in the end zone a couple times. That may take, and like Jeff said, Seattle's winning and Gino's not having to do a ton in a lot of these matchups. The wide receiver one to me is the most interesting one out of this. Dell's been a home run or maybe a slow game, but he is the clear-cut number one there today without Nico. Even when it's Josh Allen who goes for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns, I feel like the next week he comes down to earth. So I don't know how much you're going to get from that offense in general this week, but I do feel like Dell is a solid play. I have a hard time going away from Deontay Johnson. He's been back 3 games, 5 for 79, 8 for 85, 7 for 90 with a touchdown, and a total of 29 targets. I have a hard time there going away from that, but I would say this in Jeff's defense: if you told me somebody out of those two was going to score 30 this week, I would tell you it's probably Dell. If you tell me one of them goes for 18 and one of them goes for 9, I'm going to tell you that Deontay is going to go for 18 and Dell's going to go for 9. So, what are you looking for? You're looking for the home run. You probably got a better shot with Dell. If you want to know you're going to get 15, you got a better shot with Deontay. I'll go Johnson by a slim margin.
I couldn't have said it any better myself on that Deontay answer right there. Yep, I'm playing Dell for ceiling. I'm playing Deontay for floor in that. No matter what I'm looking at there, as far as again, I don't feel like I'm going to get 30 out of Deontay, but I feel like I can almost set my clock to having at least 18 to 20 on that offense. Pickens has all but just disappeared on that team, and because Deontay Johnson he's a stud. He's a separation expert. He's able to get away from his cornerbacks usually by about 5-6 yards, very fast. So that makes him a very appealing target, especially for a newer, struggling quarterback. Kenneth Walker III for sure. I have him on my DFS lineup today because I think he's going to have himself an awesome game. And again, don't take anything I'm saying for Gibbs hatred. I do love Gibbs, and I think he's the more talented back. What I do notice is that these coaches this year have really been very slow about adapting the rookies in. And again, they've been using them when they needed to use them. But then once it's all systems go again, they do kind of start losing the productivity that they had because they're not having to be the one guy and they're not getting that full entire workload. They're splitting it up too much, and they're splitting it up more for their veterans than they are for the other guys. So, and then Murray or Geno. So on this one, you guys both chose Murray. I just don't know what it is about Kyler Murray that has me so nervous this year, or because the fact that he was not injured 3 weeks ago and he still isn't playing football, and the fact that they're bringing him back so slow. And, the coach said they're bringing him back because they want to get him used to the program and they want to make it just as close to like training camp as it was for the beginning of the season. So they just get him out there, right? But even a good Kyler Murray out there, to me, I don't really feel like has been very fantasy productive. He did have a few games last season at the beginning where he was great, but he also faltered out, started really putting up some duds before he was injured. So for me, I think I'm going to go with Geno. I just like the weapon set better. I like the opportunity better. I do agree with the fact that they're not going to have to use him as much to win that football game, but I think they'll be able to use him enough. I think we're going to still see something like 250 yards and a touchdown out of Geno Smith today, possibly a rushing touchdown as well, because Geno can surprise you with those legs. So.
And real quick, Mike, what I find interesting, we obviously have the Saturday at 9 p.m. Saturday night DFS Chalk Talk. Join us if you guys can when we talk all things DFS. But what I find interesting is that when I was looking up salaries on FanDuel, you got Jahmyr Gibbs at 8,200 and Kenneth Walker at 7,300. I find that to be really interesting. That it's almost a no-brainer you put in Kenneth Walker. It's just a strange salary attached to those two guys, I thought.
I got to check that on DraftKings. That's a hell of a point. That's interesting. Real quick, on DraftKings, Gibbs is 7,000 and Walker is 6,800. That's a hell of a catch. And again, we all like Gibbs. I guess my only thing though, man, Kenneth Walker the last 2 weeks. Now, granted, Cleveland, Baltimore, two top 10 defenses. Well, 2 top 5 defenses in the NFL.
Possibly top 3 defenses.
You're right.
Man, I think that you might be talking about the actual 1 and 2 rushing defenses in the league right there.
You're absolutely right. And it showed because Walker went for 8 points against Cleveland and 2.7 against Baltimore. Now, the way that Baltimore game went, that's not going to happen home against Washington. But it is, though. I guess I understand the pause there a little bit on Walker given those 2 weeks, but I feel like it's a great get-right opportunity for him this week home against Washington.
I just got an update from that game right there. They actually completed an 11-yard pass. So there's hope. There's hope that there's going to be some things happening in there that actually Oh no, and they also both kicked another field goal since the last time I made fun of this game.
Dude, you were right then, Mike. You were right. You nailed it last night. We talking one game DFS. You said kickers and defenses. Man, that could not have been more spot on.
Right, and then just one random player that hopefully, if you would have picked, I don't even know who scored the touchdown. I think it was
Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor. So you could have afforded Jonathan Taylor easily with that slate right there.
Real quick, dude, the Colts are so crazy because like it's a 10-6 game here with the Patriots, and we know the Patriot offense sucks. But the Colts are like a chameleon team because they just had like a 39-35 or what that game against the Saints, which was insanely high scoring, and they'll have like Minshew goes crazy some weeks, and then the next week they're like the most conservative offense. It's so they're a bizarro.
And it's funny because when they do pull off those big wins, they walk like they've got that strut, and they're like, "Yeah, buddy," and then they come out there against these lesser teams. Not to say that New England's a lesser team, because New England, everybody keeps talking about, oh, they did really bad against New England. Oh, they went. When are we going to just go ahead and sit back and accept that the Patriots actually have a fairly decent defense and just move on? And they don't have much of an offense to write home about, and they're not winning football games as a result. But that defense is shutting down some really good teams out there. At Think Nows or at Fan Knows, wide receiver and a flex, Javonte Williams, London, JSN, Douglas, Zay Flowers. Also, if you don't mind, a third option if Jamar Chase doesn't go, thanks. We don't need a third option because we know Jamar Chase is going today. Joe, what do you think right here?
Yeah, this is so
Douglas is already playing, by the way, so he's out.
Douglas is out. Hopefully you didn't play Douglas in this mix-up.
I'm going to give Javonte Williams a go here. I'll flex him in this situation based on his last couple of weeks and Mikey's argument and stuff. The other one for the wide receiver, man, oh man, this is a tough one. I don't know. I have a hard time going JSN here because he's the third option plus a running back who's going to get a lot to eat today, where you got Flowers and London pretty much is like the 1-1A options for their teams. I'm going between Flowers and London. London didn't play last week. Flowers has got the Cleveland matchup, which is tough. London, man, this is a tough one. I think I'm going to give a shot with London here. I can certainly understand somebody going a different direction. I'm going to go Javonte Williams in London.
Oh, I better if I'm mute. I actually don't mind that a bit. What do you think here, Jeff?
So I'll agree with Joe right off the bat. Javonte Williams, not that I think he's going to be burning it up, but running back wise, that's a better flex option than wide receiver just because of opportunity for more touches. If we're talking between London, Jackson Smith and Jigba or Zay Flowers, it's funny. Well, first of all, Zay Flowers going up against Cleveland, that's the number 2 ranked defense against the pass. And so that's a tough. And Zay Flowers has been, every time I pick Zay Flowers, he'll get like 12 targets and he'll have 9 receptions, but it'll go for like 38 yards. It's been beyond frustrating. I think he only has 1 touchdown this year, and they've got so many guys in the backfield now at running back. They've been focusing on their running game a ton. So Zay Flowers to me has to sit down. So we're talking between London and Smith and Jigba. I'd say Drake London by a hair because he got Taylor Heineke there. It seems like he'd be throwing more towards London than Desmond Ridder did. And as Joe pointed out, Jackson Smith and Jigba, it's just a lot of mouths to feed in Seattle. So I'd say London.
I like that. I think I'm more Javonte Williams in my flex, just because that's where I'm leaning on that one as well. But I think my flex or my wide receiver option here is actually going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's been getting enough done on that offense to be in my lineup. I think give him to me. I think get him on my team. Let's do this. And I think I like him over London. I think just because London hasn't been doing much. Zay Flowers, I do not like that matchup against Cleveland, but I think they've got him. I think Cleveland has Baltimore's number today, although they haven't had it historically. So for me, I see what you guys are saying with the London and Williams play. And like I said, we don't need to go with the third one because we know our man Chase is going to be there.
The other thing with Zay Flowers, real quick, Mikey.
What?
The other thing with Zay Flowers, and Jeff started to bring it up, even if he gets 15 targets and catches 10, they are so efficient in the red zone with Gus Edwards, Lamar Jackson, and then their red zone. I mean, Mark Andrews, right? That's where Lamar Jackson looks in the red zone. So it's just going to be if Zay Flowers isn't breaking an 80-yarder, which he certainly has the potential to do, even though he hasn't really done it yet, I don't see a lot of 4-yard touchdown catches for Zay Flowers in his future on that team.
Right. Absolutely. At Mike VA says Dak versus New York Giants or Goff at LA Chargers. Hawkinson possibly limited snaps. It doesn't look like he's limited, by the way. It doesn't look like they're saying he's going to be a full go according to everything I'm looking at. Or versus New Orleans, or McBride versus Atlanta, or Kirk versus San Francisco, or Godwin versus 10. All PPR, I hope. Go ahead and lead us off here, Jeff. What do you think? Dak versus New York or Goff at LA?
So, geez, those are both great options. I would have to say, I'd have to say Goff by a very, very slim margin. Like we brought it up before, the Chargers defense on paper looks good, but for whatever reason, they give up a ton of points. We all like Amon-Ra and Montgomery and Gibbs today. I think that Goff goes over 300 easy, probably with a few touchdowns. I don't think that's, to me, that's just not in question. Now, Dak versus the Giants, you could probably have similar numbers. I just think the weapons that Goff has to toss to in Detroit are just a little bit better than what Dak has. But both are tremendous options. If we're looking at, to me, the tight end scenario, I think it's a no-brainer for me. Hawkinson over Trey, the Princess McBride. So that I won't even get into detail on. And then Kirk or Godwin, again, great options again. But I actually like Christian Kirk. He's kind of set himself apart a little bit. Trevor Lawrence's guy. San Francisco's defense is better against the run than they in the past, and Jacksonville is gonna put up some points. I mean, to keep up at least a little bit with San Francisco's, because we have high hopes for their offense today. So give me Goff, Hawkinson, and Kirk.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on this one. What do you think here, Joe?
Yeah, I think that is what I'm going to go. My thing, I was looking at Dak from DFS perspective this week, and I just don't like. He'll probably have 14 in the first 20 game minutes of that game, but then he's not going. I don't think he's going to have to do anything in the second half. So I worry about if Pollard runs a couple of 1-yard touchdowns in the first half, Dak could end up with 210 yards and no touchdowns, and they win 33-3. So that's my issue there. In Goff, I don't see that being an issue at all in that game. I think Goff's going to have to throw the score.
And I don't mean to interrupt, Joe, but yeah, and let's not forget that the Cowboys defense put up 37 fantasy points against the Giants week 1. So, I mean, their defense could score more points than Dak. So anyways, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I like Goff even more without Montgomery, because they don't run much in the red zone without Montgomery, because Gibbs isn't much of a between the tackles guy. So I do worry about Montgomery taking a touchdown or two, but I would still go Goff there. And then I think the other two, Jeff kind of framed up perfectly.
Couldn't hit the mute. I'm with you guys there. I think I'm playing Goff. I think Dak is a smash play, but he doesn't have to do anything against a team that's going to be very, very hard to try to keep up. When you look at competitive levels and things like that, the Giants aren't even in the same league as the Cowboys are, and the defense will be able to, odds are, stifle them pretty well, stay on top of a rookie quarterback, and just got to sit on Saquon and it's over. Then you got Hawkinson. I think even if he is limited snaps, I like a limited Hawkinson. That I do a McBride that I don't know how his chemistry is going to be with Kyler Murray. I mean, Kyler Murray has his thing with Rondale Moore. He likes Marquise Brown. We haven't really seen him with McBride, so I got to see it before I can get him in there, especially when we're talking about Week 10 fantasy football. And then Kirk versus Godwin. I like Kirk a lot versus San Francisco. Godwin versus Tennessee, I just don't see that game being very high scoring. I think if we do see a touchdown, it's going to come out of Mike Evans, maybe even Cade Otton, because Cade Otton's been coming along real hard. Baker Mayfield's been leaning real hard towards him. Kirk, I feel like, has been really the only option in Jacksonville that has that kind of trust. You got Zay Jones that's out, or Zay Jones to me has even a higher confidence rating than Calvin Ridley does on that offense. I even put Evan Ingram ahead of Calvin Ridley and Travis Etienne. I mean, if we're talking about receiving, so I just don't feel like Calvin Ridley's a guy that's been on that in that read focus or anything like that. Could he have a comeback game? Certainly, but for me, I feel like when we got got Trevor Lawrence in a scared or in a panic. I think he's looking for Kirk, and I think that's his first read, and I think he's hoping that's going to be his only read because he usually hucks it and hopes for rain after that. So I don't mind either one of those, though. Those are a lot of really, really close matchups right there, Mike. And thanks for joining us today. Thanks for asking your question right there. We already did this one. A couple more simple ones, guys, and we're going to be able to pack it up. We got at Lynn's _K 6 PPR, Tank Dell or Ridley. Jeff, lead us off.
I mean, to me, I mean, we all know Nico Collins is my boy. He's out, so that means Tank Dell's the number one in Houston. They'll have to be slinging it against Cincinnati today. So I think Tank Dell Ridley really had that fool's gold that week one that was big, and then we just haven't seen much from him since. And Mike just laid out all the other weapons there on Jacksonville, so I'm going Tank Dell.
Yes, sir.
The eighth look in there, the eighth look in Jacksonville. I want nothing to do with. Give me Tank Dell, who's the first look in Houston. You with us there, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Joe says thumbs up. That's a clean sweep again for you there, Lynn's K's. Sorry. We got another one, Carr or Wilson today. Joe, what do you got right here?
Well, this is mine, so I'm going to ask you guys.
I forgot that one actually came in out of yours. Carr or Wilson, Russell Wilson, that is. Who do you got here, Jeff? We'll go ahead and let you lead off, and then I'll back you up here.
Jeez, and we discussed the Saints, if you're just joining us, probably 15 minutes ago in length because somebody brought up Taysom Hill. And because of the Taysom Hill factor, I would say I'm going Wilson. Seemingly, Taysom Hill is going to be running it when they get inside the 10-yard line. It's just very frustrating for anybody who owns Carr. Russell Wilson hasn't been burning it up, but I have to think he's going to do a little bit more than Derek Carr.
I give you that right there. I think Wilson. I think Carr Taysom Hill's been ruining Carr's value. I think this is going to be a big Kamara day. I think this is going to be a good Taysom Hill day, unfortunately. So yeah, give me Russell Wilson here as well, Joe.
All right. I had Carr in. I think I'm going to change it. Hey, let me give you guys one more while you still have it, and then I'll shut up. But we talked about both these guys a chunk today. Deontay Johnson or Christian Kirk?
Ooh.
To me, I'm saying Christian Kirk by a slim margin. They're both great options. Well, geez, I might even be talking myself out of that. I don't know. I'll let Mike grab this one first.
I think I'm going to Deontay Johnson here by a hair. I think that there are enough options in Jacksonville. I know they definitely have a lot of options over there, but none of them have that separation reliability that Deontay Johnson brings to the table, man. I'm telling you, if you watch this guy run routes, and I watch a lot of tape on in between weeks and stuff like that, you'll see him get a 3-step drop on these guys within about 5-6 yards, which is incredible. I mean, I'm telling you, like, Cooper Kupp is about the only guy that can actually beat that kind of separation. And I mean, ankle breaking ability and the things that those guys can do to get open. Now, granted, none of them can do it like D-Hop. D-Hop is insane, right? Like I believe he has that within the first 2 yards or some crazy thing like that. I mean, he's so good at it. But when you got what we're talking about, the top three there, and in that conversation is Deontay Johnson. To me, Deontay Johnson's an elite level receiver. Give me Deontay every day. Yeah.
So because of those points, I'll go Deontay. In the 4 games he's played, he's averaging about 9 targets. I want to say 6 or 7 receptions. So whereas there are a lot of mouths to feed in Jacksonville. So, yeah, let me go Deontay Johnson based on what Mike said.
Safety blanket for Kenny Pickett, man. He's doing a lot to get relied on there. We got one last question here. Sit one, Aaron Jones, Barkley, or Gibbs? This guy was worried about Barkley's matchup. This question comes from a gentleman by the name of, sorry, I got this.
E-Blacks.
E-Blacks, yeah, there you go, E-Blacks. So who are you sitting right here, Jeff?
A gentleman by the name of E-Blacks is a weird first name. So E-Blacks, yes. What's his last name? But in any case, so I'm sitting actually Aaron Jones. I'm so down on Green Bay's offense. Again, Jones had a decent week last week. He had a good week 1, and then sandwiched in between some very much poor weeks. So I get it. That's a tough matchup that the Giants have, but I still think Barkley's one of their few or only weapons. And Gibbs, yeah, even though he's splitting with Montgomery, he's going to have some decent opportunity there for Detroit. So I'm sitting Jones.
Okay, now I'll go ahead and go next since this one also was brought to us from Joe, so we'll go ahead and let him close this one out. I'm actually the opposite. I can't sit Jones. I can't sit Barkley. I think that I'm taking the running back ones in both of those matchups. Again, Barkley, I don't really like against Dallas, but I feel like who else are they going to give the ball to on that team? I mean, they're at least going to try to run out the clock a little bit, so they're going to be handing that ball to Barkley. Jones, to me, I mean, I'm agreeing there too. The offense is abysmal, but I feel like there's just enough for Jones to get it done for your day. Whereas Gibbs, I'm worried about Montgomery coming back. I'm way too high on Amon-Ra to really think that there's going to be a whole lot of production getting pushed to other places, especially when you got Sam Laporta on another side, Khalif Raymond, Jameson Williams. I mean, they've just got a lot of people that have the potential to take that game away from them, or these other teams. So I'm sitting Gibbs in this matchup. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, it's a really hard one. I've changed my answer while listening to both of you guys multiple times. I think in the end this week, I'm going to sit Gibbs here. But I'll tell you something right now. If Gibbs has a good game today, I'm not sitting Gibbs anymore, even with Montgomery there. So, but I'm going to give Jones and Barkley a shot here. Barkley is going to touch the ball like 25 to 30 times, but it's probably going to amount to 80 yards, and it's just a matter of whether he gets in the end zone. But it's hard to lay off the volume of touches he's going to have. And Aaron Jones, the fact that he had a nice week last week, that's enough for me to say I'll give him another go. So I'll give Gibbs one more shot on my bench, but if he burns us this week, Gibbs going forward is going to be really hard to sit. And I would say this too, whoever you do sit out of this, go on to FanDuel or DraftKings and throw $20 on their prop yardage so you win either way.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
They're all good options.
Sorry to duck out like that. I'm not even too sure what button I hit to have that happen, but man, I was just like, oh, I guess I'm off the show now. We're gone. With that said, guys, I think we got it all wrapped up here. Do we have anything else to add before we go ahead and duck out and go set our own lineups and go win us some money and win us some week matchups? You got anything there, Joe Jeff?
Well, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. Oh, I see how it is, bro. I see how it is. So I just want to, again, thanks for everybody who joins us on the shows. Don't forget DFS Chalk Talk Saturday night, 9 p.m. We very much appreciate everybody checking, especially our boy Trans Siberian. The guy's about as loyal as it gets. Love seeing the questions every week, brother. Appreciate you checking in. So, but yeah, DFS Chalk Talk Saturday night, 9 p.m. We hope to see you there next Saturday.
That's excellent. You want to go in there with a money mindset because we're going to win you some. What do you got for us, Joe?
I'm just thinking about quarterbacks, and I've always been such a heavy quarterback, draft one early when you guys got Mahomes and Allen and her. But, the quarterback production fantasy-wise is down this year. And then you have the way these main slates are working out from like a DFS perspective. You got your Dobbs and your Kyler Murray's, different teams coming back this week. I feel like there's going to be a really interesting quarterback week because you could see the Strouds come back down to life. You could see Dobbs kind of fizzle after what he did last week. To your point, Kyler stunk last year, towards the end of the season. And you could see Josh Allen come up big and Dak. But then it could be the other way again. It could be Dobbs having another magical performance. Maybe Kyler comes up hot this week, and it's just it's very fluid from a quarterback perspective week to week this year, and I don't feel like that's normally how it is in the NFL.
No, I agree. I agree completely, especially when we got a lot of the big guns out this week. It should be interesting to see what kind of quarterback, because we could live in a world today where Josh Dobbs all of a sudden start looking like Tom Brady out there, where this guy's out there winning football games reliably week in, week out. You got quite a few of those guys out there that have that opportunity.
Will Levis
go either north or south. No, it's definitely true, man. It's definitely going to be an interesting season because, it has been really weird. If you drafted Patrick Mahomes, you're probably not too happy about it. Heck, even if you drafted Josh Allen, I mean, yes, he's been consistent, but nothing like he was previous seasons when he's getting a lot more done with his legs. Justin Fields is another one that was just abysmal the first 3 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden, my God, you got to see what we got him for again because he gets those things done with his legs. So it's really curious to see whereas there's a lot of teams that are trending in the right direction like the Bengals, and there's a lot of teams that are trending in a weird direction like the 49ers that really have a lot of things to turn around today. So it's curious to see as far as that goes. So Pretty exciting day in football today. Make sure you guys are joining us next Saturday for the DFS Chalk Talk because, like I said, we're going to fill up your piggy bank as long as we're going to fill up your brain bank while we're at it. So thank you so much again. Thanks for joining me again, gentlemen. And you guys have yourselves a good Saturday, or a good Sunday, I mean, rather. Enjoy the rest of your week. I hopefully will see you guys next week. If not, I'll be back, but you'll be in good hands because one of these two guys will be running the show, and they'll both be here to help you guys out and help you win your week. Until then, guys, until next week, thank you.